Welcome to Death and Aliens, an in-depth look at horror and sci-fi TV from two friends who vaguely know what they're doing. I'm Courtney.
Okay. I literally forgot my name for a second.
That's okay. It kind of cut on your audio in the beginning. I was like, did she forget to talk? But you were talking. I just didn't hear it.
Oh, well, good, great.
No problem.
Ooh.
So how are you?
You know, I want to say like I'm not good because today was weird and like not good, but I had a magical weekend of art.
Ugh, that sounds like heaven.
So Friday after work, Ruthie, my friend Ruthie, she's one of my coworkers, we went out for dinner and we went to the melting pot.
I love the melting pot. We used to go every year for everyone's birthday in New Orleans, and then it closed.
I had never been before.
My God, it's incredible.
It's just cheese and chocolate
That's
and champagne
all.
and champagne and then like hot pot cooking your food and
Truly like top notch of the restaurants. Okay, so now that you've gone to the restaurant, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. You need to go to watch Olin Rogers' video. Um, I'll send it to you because I don't remember what it's called right now.
okay,
But you need to watch. It's like this ridiculously long video, but it is like well worth it about melting pot.
okay, okay. Well, I loved it. And then we went to a concert.
Which
It was Jonathan Butler and Grace Kelly. Um,
I've heard of Grace Kelly.
well, have you heard of Grace Kelly because it's the Princess of Monaco or because of the jazz saxophonist?
Both.
Okay, good. Because a couple people that I said I was going to see Grace Kelly, they were like, "Isn't she dead?" I was like, yes,
I
but
did think you
no.
were gonna tell me they were like, isn't she of Monaco? And you were gonna be like, no, she's dead. But at least they knew she was dead.
Yeah.
But
No,
I
but
know I
so
know both of them. I may know of Jonathan Butler, but that's just such a common name. I can't even
yeah,
tell.
no. Jonathan Butler is a South African jazz musician and guitarist and like funk rocker who is just freaking dope. And then obviously Grace Kelly is an Asian American female singer, songwriter, saxophonist, and it was just great. We were by far the youngest people in the audience.
Did they do any Alec?
Uh, what's that?
Did they do any Alec Wilder?
Not that I'm aware of. I think they did mostly original stuff and Christmas stuff. They both write their own music and it was a Christmas tour, so like it was like the little drummer boy and then an original.
I'm gonna
Like
write their name down, and we're gonna try and reach out to them for covers, so I don't forget that they exist to do jazz stuff.
yeah, they're pretty great. Um and Yeah, it was amazing. But we left a little bit early. The concert was not over when we left, but we were literally falling asleep in our seats. Not anything to do with them, but because it was Friday and we had worked all day and then decided that we were functioning to go to a concert that started at 8 p.m., which we were not.
I went to an 8 p.m. show. I totally get it.
Um, and then Saturday, what did I do in the morning? Oh, nothing. I just hung out and I actually just hung out and did nothing and it was so nice.
That sounds amazing.
Um, and then I edited the podcast and took a nap. And then I went to the Buffalo Philharmonic Orchestra's Christmas Classics concert, which features the Buffalo Philharmonic Chorus, which of course Dan is a part of. And they sang Christmas songs, and it was beautiful, and it was so good. And the orchestra, I mean, Joanne Valletta, the director of the orchestra, like the conductor, like has won Grammys like for classical music every year because, and they're just freaking amazing. And
Love
I
it.
loved it, and it was amazing. And then, and then the cherry on top. Yesterday on Sunday, Dan and I went to a performance at the Irish Classical Theatre in Buffalo of Great Expectations by Charles Dickens.
Oh yeah, I did see you post about that.
My
Oh, well,
cousin
okay.
my cousin RJ played Pip and he was absolutely phenomenal.
Oh, how fun.
It was such an interesting like production of it. It was so good. Oh, and for those of you who don't know, which we've talked about this because that's literally what I named my gecko. Great Expectations is my favorite story ever of all time. Pip is my favorite character. I was explaining to Dan that my favorite thing about Pip is that the end of the book makes me angry because I don't like the choice he makes at the end of the book, but it's exactly the same choice I would have made in that situation. And like that's why I hate it, and that's why he's my favorite character of all time because I
Identify.
identify with every choice he makes for the whole story. Um, it is, it was so good. And then we went to Red Robin.
I've never been to Red Robin.
It was pretty good, pretty good. And then I stayed up way too late watching the shows for this podcast.
Wow.
Um, yeah, and of course, after we went to Red Robin is when I cried about not seeing him for 5 days. So like,
Yeah.
but I mean, it was a whole weekend where I literally just saw concerts and plays, and I did a whole weekend of just art. And then I'm going, like I said on Sunday, I'm going to come from away this week, and I'm working in the theater 4 days of the week, and I have another concert this weekend, and I'm having a movie night, and it's just
I
all
love
of the all of the art.
it. I- Unfortunately, that is not my life right now. I mean, it was. I did go to two shows this weekend, but
Yeah.
now I'm in the midst of everything's happening all at one time,
Mm-hmm.
and it's fine. I was meant to do a lot of stuff yesterday, but since I worked a 13-hour day, I spent a lot of yesterday sleeping, so I knew I wasn't going to do that again this week.
Yeah.
And so today I literally I got to work on time. Good for me. And
Yeah.
I left, so I left on time. And I had to run into Macy's. I spent $60 on shoes that I thought were going to be $80, so at least that was a kind of a bonus.
Nice.
And they're comfortable to wear with my dress. I don't know if they're high enough, but they're as high as I could find in my size. So we'll
Mm.
see. Um, and then I had to rush and go get my Secret Santa gift. This comes out like 1,000 years from now. So I drew Brian, who's one of my new assistants, and I know he told me he really doesn't like reading, but he really likes to read to learn. And so he's been
Mm.
reading a lot of books in our music library or looking through them and stuff about our artists and stuff like that. And he's like writes his own music and stuff. He's in a band called Late Night Thoughts in the City, and the band is Late Night Thoughts. They are in the city. Let me specify.
Good, good, good.
And so he's always so up to date with the new technologies and stuff, which is very cool. So I got him this book. I went to Barnes and Noble and I was like, I'm gonna get him a music book. But I don't want to get something that feels like work, even though it's stuff he enjoys. I still don't want to be like, hi, I'm your manager and I also got you a workbook. That feels
Right.
so I got him a book and it's called The Sound of Something. And it's how composers these days are using different technologies and different sounds to create this new music that we've never heard, and how they're kind of interweaving it into technology and everything. And I was like, this feels very Brian. So I got him that, and then I got him some
That.
candies that were at the edge of the Barnes and Noble counter. And I got my dad a book about Joni Mitchell because he
Love
loves to read
that.
about about songwriters and stuff. And I've been doing some work on Joni Mitchell's catalog this week. So I was like,
I love it. No.
I work, and then Thursday morning I leave to get on a plane to go to New Orleans to do Rachel's wedding. And I am not ready for any of those things. Um, it's totally fine. We have our holiday party Wednesday, and then I get on a plane Thursday. And the wedding is Saturday. And then Sunday I'm going to my aunt's and I'm sleeping.
I will not sleep until the 28th of December,
That's when I come back to New York.
but when it hits the 28th of December, you move
Because
working for an entire day.
yeah, I'm just sleeping probably the first day after the wedding. But I also don't know how I'm getting like to my parents because it's a 4 hour drive, and I don't have a car in Louisiana. I mean, I do, but like it's at my parents, so I'm not really sure how I'm getting from Baton Rouge to West Monroe. Um, Theoretically, I will have figured that out by now, by the time you all hear this.
Well, yes, because you will also be back to New York by the time they hear this.
So
And
I
we
would
will
like to
have
believe I figured out
and,
how to get to West Monroe by then.
and we will have recorded another episode of the podcast. So
Um, so I'm hoping everything works out and somebody figures out how to get me from one part of Louisiana to another. But yeah, I'm cool. This is this is our full disclosure. This is our last episode we're recording for 2022, and it is our fourth week of recording 3 episodes a week. So we are
in a holiday season where neither of us have the time to watch or record 3 episodes a week,
right.
so we're struggling.
We're actively working 60 to 80 hour weeks every week. Like, yeah. So we are really doing our best. It is after 11. I think I don't even know what time it is.
No, it is after 11, and we're
Excellent.
just starting this, so it's gonna be
We're just trying to make it through. And
yeah.
when you see us next, we're gonna be brand new people. You're not even gonna
Yes.
recognize us. Don't worry.
Correct.
We'll still be
Correct.
you will recognize us.
Right.
Um, but you know what does always make me feel better in times of chaos? My spirituality.
Today, for the last episode of 2022 of our Hell Month, I'm gonna keep it short and simple. Fuck yes, I am.
So true. So true. I love it. I love it. That's gonna be our
Yeah.
motto.
Yeah, that's what fuck yes I am. That's what we gotta do.
Absolutely. And now, without I have lost my notebook again. Here it is. Without further ado, let's do this. This
Um,
is a lot.
guys, this isn't so much. I don't know if I'm
We,
prepared.
we will go through it and then we can have our comments at the end.
Okay.
Because I know we're gonna have some last minute thoughts. So this is Bates Motel, season 4, episode 9, the penultimate episode of the season, called
The
Forever.
penultimate episode of the penultimate season.
Yes. Ooh, spicy. Called Forever. It aired May 9th, 2016, which was my grandmother's birthday.
Happy birthday, Grandma.
She had already passed away by then. I don't remember what year she passed away. I think it was
Oh,
2015.
good. Oh, okay. Well, then that was probably not a great day. If it
Hey,
was
the year after she passed away, yeah, you're probably right. But it was a day nonetheless. May as well have fallen on the same day as this episode coming out.
yeah, you know.
Just stay in that mood all day. This episode was rated 9.4 out of 10, which like totes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Totes. I'm here for it. I have the best news for you I've ever had for you.
What's that?
Our number one song has finally changed.
Oh, thank God.
It is now Panda by Designer.
It's not who by what?
Panda by Designer.
Do
I
you,
do not know this song off the top of my head. I remember when this song came out because I was very confused about the title and artist for a very long time. I still cannot tell you this song except I recognize it.
I'm gonna be honest. I was fully an adult working at Disney. I existed. I listened to the radio. I
I'm pretty sure this is one of those songs that like it came out and like if you heard the song, you're like, oh, I know that song. but nothing else makes sense about like the title and the artist. Because I definitely have
Look,
heard this song
I'm
and
looking at the lyrics, and I'm sure if I heard the beat, it would be different.
probably I've definitely heard of it, and it's definitely not worked by Rihanna, which is all that I really care about this week.
Yeah. Wow.
Um, yeah, so our number one movie, still Captain America: Civil War.
Yeah. Checks
No
out.
shock there. Um, and the number one book is Extreme Prey by John Sanford. I don't know that book. I didn't read about that book. I'm sorry. I hope it was good.
Yeah,
I'm sure it was.
I'm sure. I know
On this,
nothing.
on this day, one thing happened, so I've pulled a few things,
Okay.
as I do. Boris Johnson resigned as mayor of London.
Oh,
That's like the event that happened.
okay.
It is also Billy Joel's birthday. So Billy
Okay.
Joel, my grandmother, share a birthday.
Yeah.
And
It was my friend Adam's last shift at work at Disney.
see, lots of big milestones. May 9th. And the most popular baby names, May 9th of 2016, were Emma and Noah, which totally
Cool.
checks out. Our director is Tin Southam, who we've had before. As a reminder, he's our Lock and Key and American Gods director. So like we've had him a lot. This is like probably
It's
his
that
episode.
that I was really, really sure you were gonna tell me it was a different director.
Because it was very different, right?
It was so different.
I was shocked to see it was Tim Southam.
I was so sure it was gonna be a new director because this episode was fucking wild.
Wild, yeah. Mm.
I don't usually take notes about like lighting or cinematography. I just have feelings. And then when you bring it up, I'm like, oh yeah, I thought that too. I very rarely take those kinds of notes because that's just like not my jam. I have a fuck ton of those notes.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, you do. Um, Same writers. We have a it was a smaller
Now,
role.
same writers, not Freddie Highmore.
Not Freddie Highmore, like same writers from the beginning.
Okay, cool.
Like that we've had every week, the same like five people credited. Um,
Okay.
um, our guest is Carmen Moore, who plays Grace Way. She's one of the DEA agents.
Oh, cool. I was like, I don't know who that is.
Yeah, I mean, we knew everyone else, so I had to pick her.
That's
Um,
fair.
her birthday's Christmas Eve, so I thought that was fun. And so here's the thing. She's known for Blackstone, Rustic Oracle, Cardinal, and Flash Gordon. I've heard of Flash Gordon. I don't know
Yeah.
anything about it. I have just heard the title. I don't know any of
I
the other ones.
I know the theme song. I can't sing it because copyright, but I know the theme song. And that's it.
So these are other things she's been in that people have seen. She's also been in The Flash and Nancy Drew
Oh,
with like
cool.
actual roles. And I was like, how are these not the things she's known for? I don't know, dude.
I mean, to be
Um,
fair, Flash Gordon is a big deal
well,
for
yeah, but
people
like
who
the
have,
other three things I've never heard of.
I've never heard of, yeah.
So I was like, how did those like outdo? Like, I get Flash Gordon; it should have been there too. But like the Flash and Nancy Drew, people have like heard about those shows at least.
Yeah.
Or seen them.
Was she like roles that were like one role episode or like
It looked like
roles?
they were like recurring roles.
Oh, that's so weird.
Right? I don't know. It was very strange. Let's all take a deep breath together and know this is going to be a big one. Okay, so Norma wakes up to the light streaming in through her window, but Alex is gone. And she walks downstairs looking for him, and he tells her he didn't sleep because he just thinks she needs to take Norma back to Pineview. So he's been
Hmm.
up like pounding coffee and just sitting on the couch in distress, which is like same. Um,
Right.
Also what I was doing today while I was watching this episode. pounding coffee and sitting on the couch in distress.
Yeah, I feel that. I was sitting at my desk having coffee in distress, but like same.
Yeah, same. And he says he doesn't feel safe leaving Norma alone with him. And I was like, yes, correct.
I literally was like, you do realize that he's the only human being who cares about you, right? Like we've established that? No? Cool.
And poor Norma just has no idea. She like can't, she's like rose colored glasses every day with Norman. And
But it's like worse than rose-colored glasses. It's like deliberately wearing a
like
blindfold.
it's like she's got the horse's blinders on with Norman.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we see Norman looking down the stairs at them when they start kissing, being real creepy. Because as we said last week, he's just following people around and being creepy.
Oh,
Um,
and here's the thing. This was the first note I took about Norma in this episode. She told Alex that Norman would never hurt her.
mhm,
And I said, you say that now, but he will kill you.
mhm. Yep.
I did not know what this episode was when I wrote that. I did not remember writing that until I just looked at my notebook now. And I am fucking angry.
Yes. Correct. We got a little foreshadowing from the episode. Um, but Norman comes downstairs and she immediately just like Alex slept on the couch. And like Norman knows that like that's a lie. Like he just went downstairs to the couch, like obviously.
Yeah.
But then we go to the credits.
But also, okay, this scene,
Mhm.
when she's like, don't worry, Norman, he slept on the couch, and they have like a little moment, they're talking about like what they're gonna do that day. And like she like turns into a child. I was like, I seriously can't stand how unable the parent she is. Like she becomes so meek when she's talking to Norman. And like I think she always has, but in that moment it was like so much more obvious how like unable to act like an adult she is around him.
Because the last couple of episodes we've seen her like stand up for herself and like really try to be a parent, even though she's making a lot of bad decisions still. But she's still trying to like stand up to Norman.
And
And
she just can't.
she can't. She's reverted back this episode.
Oh,
And
I know what it was. He said that she needed to go get dressed or else they were going to be late for the appointment. And she was like, yeah, you're right, I do. And it was like, you're the adult here.
right. But alas. So when we come back from the credits, we're with Norma and Norman, who are on their way to therapy. And Norma is just acting like the world is all peachy keen. And she's like, maybe we can get together and put up the Christmas lights. And he's like, that'd be nice. And she's like, and maybe Alex can join us. And he just like loses his mind.
Yeah.
I was like, she's trying really hard to get him to like Alex, but it's like he's a psychopath. Like it's not gonna happen just because you say his name
Right.
over and over. Like that's not gonna help anything.
Right.
And so we go to his therapy session and he's telling the doctor about Alex. But he's like telling him everything. He's like telling him about like he's like Norma's just afraid of being alone. So when I was gone, she married someone. And she's like, she only married him for his insurance money. Like they're trying to defraud you. And I'm like,
Also, he says something, the thing that he said that really just like fucking irked me. He said, and this man has always wanted her, so he's been waiting for me to be gone so he could be with her. Ma'am, ma'am. I know you're a boy, but ma'am. This grown ass adult's feelings for her have never once and never will depend on your location because he's a functioning human being.
they only depended on when Norma was acting like a normal adult and not acting like a normal adult.
Correct.
It happened to coincide when you were gone, but
Right. Like you
Norma,
do factor into this, but not in the way you think.
and not at all in Alex's viewpoint, only in Norma's.
Right.
But he also told the doctor that Norma is going to fall apart and he'll have to pick up the pieces again. And like that has been a history,
Yeah.
but also like 4 out of 5 times that that's happened recently were because of things he did.
Right.
So like
Yeah.
yes and no, Norman. Yes and
Okay.
no. And not with Alex. You just don't understand.
You don't understand.
Um, and we go to Norma, who's outside of the appointment, and she calls Alex. And she is being like hella defensive.
Yeah.
He's like talking to her and telling her, like, it's good for Norman, this and that, and blah, blah, blah. And she just like starts getting snappy at him. And I was like, Norma, calm down.
Right. I was like, Alex is such a good man. Please do not ruin him.
Yeah, I put Alex as such a saint. Like, he's put up with so much from her.
So,
And like, I get that they're really great together when Norman's not in the picture, but like, it's a lot to put up with when it's like an everyday thing.
yeah.
It'd be different if it was like, here's your kid who lives across the country. We don't get along, but I only have to see them like twice a year, you know? And
Right.
so like we may fight twice a year because you're gonna take their side, but it's like it's fine. I'll push through for like the rest of time, you know?
Yeah.
But
No, this is rough.
yeah. And we go to Emma and Dylan who are packing for Seattle. And this is a very short but very important scene still. Um
Hmm.
Emma is packing and she finds like a something with pockets, a cardigan or something.
It's the coat that she borrowed from Norma when they were on their way home from the Christmas
Right.
tree farm.
And so she pulled it out of the pocket, an earring, and she goes, "Oh, will you give this back to Norma? I bet she's been looking for it." And Dylan immediately knows that it's Audrey's earring.
Now, this is where I had a problem. Dylan is a very observant young man. I will give him that. But there's a 0% chance, 0% chance in the history of adult men that this man, who was panicked about his girlfriend being in surgery in the hospital, recognized and memorized an earring well enough to immediately know what that was. No, I don't believe it for a fucking second. Absolutely not.
I think that is very fair. I looked at it from the opposite direction of like he knows Norma doesn't really wear gaudy earrings, and he's already I know that's not what he said, but this is what I'm deciding is Norma doesn't really wear gaudy earrings, and he knows it came from Norma, and he's already suspicious about Audrey. And so it was like a logical deduction because I also agree that he wouldn't have just remembered off the cuff from the.
Right. I agree that he could have gotten there, but they made it such an immediate
Yeah.
recognition, and I was like, nope, nope,
And they definitely made it like he says later that he recognized it from the hospital. And I was like, no, you don't. Like you may
nope,
have gotten
no,
there, but that's not where it was came from.
yeah, no, you for sure do not recognize it from the hospital. That's not
Not
true.
yeah. And then we have this short scene with Norma and Norman who are heading home, and like Norman's just being like super weird. And finally, he's just like, "I am your son," and it's just like, why are like, because she's like, "You're my son, and I'm always gonna love you or protect you or put you first or whatever." And he's like, "I am your son." I was like, "This is such a weird scene."
Such a weird scene. I
Like,
hated it.
this is the scene why it wasn't 10 stars. Like,
Right. Yeah.
one knocked us down. Because you better believe the next one, Rebecca goes to lunch with, she meets Alex at lunch, or she finds him at lunch.
No.
And yeah,
No. 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 No.
yeah. I think
No. No. This is where she agrees to do it.
oh, yeah, 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 you're right, you're right. So she looks ragged.
She looks fucked up.
She looks real rough. And so she's got an attorney and she's meeting with the DEA. And it turns out she's agreed to turn on Alex if she can have, um, what's the word?
She wants probation with no jail time.
Yeah. And me. I'm an attorney, I swear. She, wants probation with no jail time. And they're like, well, not if you killed someone. She's like, I didn't kill anyone. She was like, it's not that extreme, but I can like wear a wire. And they're like, why do you think he's going to believe you? And she's so like intense. She's like, we had a long lasting romantic relationship. And I was like, okay, you made that way more dramatic than it seemed. It was like you were
Well,
revealing it for the very first time.
yeah,
Like
we all knew it.
everyone knows. Even Norma knows. Like it's not a secret.
Not as no, no.
But fine. So she's decided she's gonna wear a wire. So go back to Dylan and Alex because of course Alex also calls Dylan for help. Like even though Alex is like the level-headed one, he's still calling Dylan for help, like everyone else.
I know, but I did say thank God, the dream team working
I mean,
together.
truly though, like who else is he gonna call? But like it just sucks that Dylan's the only one that anyone can ever call. Like give him a break. Let him like take a nap. Or
Yeah,
like 23, you know, like it's insane. But it turns out he wants to tell him that Norman needs to go back to Pineview. Dylan agrees with him, but Alex wants to
have Norman committed
commit
without
him
like
back to
without
Norman
Norma.
because all you have to do is have two family members sign off on it. And he's technically a family member now.
Yep,
And
Daddy.
yep, yeah, that's it. And if Dylan will agree to it, and Dylan's like super not comfortable with that, which I totally get.
I don't though. Like I do because he's a good person, but after everything that we just found out about how outside her or he feels, I just don't see why he still feels any loyalty to Norma. It's just
So
really
I think it's more of a last ditch effort type thing. I think he's like, I
which
don't think that could potentially mess it up because I want to be in this family one day as much as I like in my own like messed up way. You know, it's like I don't want
yeah,
to be a part of this at all, but I feel like I need to be. And if I do one thing out of line, they're just gonna get rid of me again, like I don't matter. And
yeah.
I
No,
feel like
I get that. It's just hard to be like, you just said that you'd be better off and that they're awful for you. Just walk away.
right. Yes, yes. Um, but Dylan says he'll try and talk to her first. He's like, let's have a conversation and then we'll go from there. If she's uncomfortable,
Right.
we'll talk again. So he goes to talk to Norma and he immediately confronts her with the earring. And he's like, Emma said you might be missing this. She's like, oh, I was. He's like, this is definitely Audrey's earring. And she was like, yeah,
Yeah.
whatever. She was like, why would you lie then? She was like, it was just easier to answer in the moment. It's like, no, Norma, that's not how speaking works. Like,
No.
you don't just say what's easiest when you're gonna act like it's no big deal on the other side. Like,
But like oof.
you're not a habitual liar.
I literally wrote, ma'am, you have absolutely lost your mind.
Right. Like,
Like,
she only lies when she needs to lie. So it's like it'd be different if it was like somebody who just lied all the time and it was just like another lie for them. But she only lies when I mean, she lies a lot, but it's because she needs to for certain things.
but I mean, does she though, or does she just find it easier to like lie about everything? Because at this point, she's so deep that like the truth doesn't exist
Also
anymore.
finds it easier because anytime it's gonna be easier on her, she's gonna lie about it. But like she acted like it didn't matter if he knew. And I was like, if he doesn't matter, then why wouldn't you just say it in the first place? Like you're only gonna hide something if it's gonna help you in the end. And so pretty obvious. And then Dylan gets like super intense. And he like throws a laundry basket and he's like, look, Norman's dangerous. We have to. And she's like, how dare you say that? He's never been dangerous. You don't know anything. And he's like, no, Norma, I know. And then she tells him that he's always been jealous of Norman. And I was like, while that may be true to an extent, I don't think he ever wanted what Norman had with Norma. But like,
No, but he's always been jealous a little bit that she loved Norman as much as
yeah,
she did.
yeah. And like totally fair, but also like low blow Norma. Like, you
And
know,
no, it was she's absolutely lost her goddamn mind.
right? Like totally uncalled for, and you know you're wrong. So
Yeah.
he tells her that that Alex talked to him, and he's like, talk to him, clear things up with him. And she's like, I'm your mother. And he just looks at her and goes, you've never been a real mother to me. And
That was the most heartbreaking shit ever.
I was like, that's rough, but also true. Like, that was
Oh
on you.
no, for sure. I wasn't heartbroken for Norma. I was heartbroken for him.
Yeah.
Like,
And like, cause like she said hurtful things that to an extent were true, but not quite in the way she said them. But he said hurtful things that were like spot on.
spot on. Yeah.
And he just turns around and walks out the door. And she asks for the earring back, and he just doesn't give it to her.
Good for
And
him.
so, yeah, of course, good for him. I was like, that's exactly right. And so she chases him out the door, yelling at him. And Norman comes up, and Dylan just goes up and runs up to him, gives him a hug, and tells him he needs to check himself and back into Pineview. And he's like, "What's going on?" And he's just like, Dylan,
You're
he's like,
not.
"Norman, you need this. You're not better yet. You need to go back to
He was
Pineview."
like, "You're not well." And I was like, "Oof."
And Norman is keeps asking what's going on because nobody's telling him. And
Yeah.
he finally, Norma's like, everyone thinks you need to go back to Pineview, but they just don't know. You need to be here with me. Everyone acts like they know you better than me. And he's like, does Alex think this too? And I was like, oh, Jesus Christ. But she, instead of straight up answering him, which like it was still pretty obvious from her non answer, but she's
Right.
like, stay home. I need to go talk to Alex. And
I was like, why can't the good guys just win once? Like one
one time,
time.
one time, because as
One
soon as they win, they
time.
die every time, every one of
Yeah.
them. So now we go back to Rebecca and Alex. This is the scene I almost was telling last time because I
Correct.
didn't remember correctly. Um, and Alex is having some soup, and Rebecca just like joins him at lunch, and she starts, and he's like, "Why aren't you in Indiana?" And she starts just like being super nostalgic. She's like, "Do you remember the first time we met? It was with Bob Paris, and this and that." And I was like, "You're being really obvious,
I literally was like, "Bam, you're not slick.
right?"
Not even a little bit."
And like he immediately realizes because she's like, "We met at Bob Paris." He's like, "Oh yeah," and she's like, why were you friends with Bob Paris if you knew he was a drug dealer?" And he goes, "What? Bob Paris was a drug dealer?" I like laughed. I was like,
I was like, thank you. I was like, he knows exactly what you're doing. That is why he's my husband, because he's the smartest person on that show.
he truly is the smartest person. So he can tell that she's wearing a wire. So he says he
He just
doesn't.
goes, he just goes, "Where's the mic?"
Yeah, he's like, "I'd like to say something to my friends at the DEA." And I was like, "Good on you, Alex." Because he's like, "You
So
can all
hot.
go to hell." Like, he's like, "I've helped you with so much. I brought down the drug business here. Like, why would you?"
Right. He was like, "I'm your informant. Suck my dick." Like,
Yeah, and like to be fair, like he's made some like not great choices as sheriff. Like he's let a lot of things slide by and like killed people and whatnot. But also,
murder, corruption, all in a day's work.
all in a day's work. Yep. And then Norma shows up to talk to Alex at his office, and she's mad
Well,
about
because no, he goes to his office and they're like,
because
your
she's there.
wife's in there.
Yeah. And she just starts going off. She's mad about him and Dylan and talking behind her back. And he's like, Norma, Norman literally swung an axe at me. Like he was going to hit me with the axe for a long time. And she was like, he just took it out in the barn. Are you dead? I was like, Norma, that is not a good like argument. That is
No.
not the way to go.
My notes say you are an absolute fucking nut job and you should probably listen to the literal only person who has your best interest at heart.
Right. And but instead she tells him she'll never trust him again. I was like, okay, great. Great.
Right.
Doing well.
Conclusions have been leapt to.
Yeah. So now we go back to Norman. And we don't have any more jumping around. We He's going through his taxidermy for the nostalgia, I'm sure. And he comes upon Audrey's suitcase. And it's hard to tell what he's thinking, which makes this scene all the more ominous because he finds the scarf he used to strangle her And so you see him
Mm-hmm.
like look at the scarf and you're like, oh, does he remember strangling her? But then he finds out like a clump of her hair that he pulled out.
Mm-hmm.
And then he starts like putting her coat on. And I was like,
No, 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 no. It wasn't her
is that
coat.
Norma's robe?
It was Norma's robe because
Okay.
he got dirt on it when he buried
Mm,
her, and he put it in. So it was the muddy robe
that
was
makes
with the
sense.
other stuff, and he put it on. And when he looked in the mirror and saw himself with the robe on, he had a brief moment where you realize he knows
That he
everything that happened, that he did it while he was, because now he's aware of the blackouts and the fact that he thinks he's Norma in the blackouts because of Dr. Edwards. So you had that brief, just a flash in his eyes where there was like a tear in his eye and he knew everything. And you had no idea if he was going to be upset about it, like what his reaction was going to be. And it went to black. And I was like, the fuck just happened?
Yep. And then we see him
I
outside.
literally wrote, he knows it was him. He has to. He has to.
Yeah. And we see him digging in the robe. And I was like, is this a flashback to burying her? Is he digging her up? What is happening? It was too much. It's too much from now to the end. But
Yeah. Well, he just was burying the suitcase, presumably next to where he already buried the
right,
body.
right. And and then of course all the lighting is dark again. And Norma comes home and she is depressed and she's upset because she's decided to end things with Alex and she tells Norman that he was right, that
And I
they,
got mad. My note says he was only right because you let him be right.
and this is like a good like showing of how they've been using light and dark because they've been in the light so much when she's been with Alex, and as soon as she says she's not with him, it's only darkness. Like, and she has like pieces of light that are like trying to get to her,
Oh my
and all
God.
the
Yeah.
things she opens the fridge, and it's like the front of her is illuminated, everything behind her's black, including where Norman's standing, and
Yeah.
it's like it's such a great shot until the end. Everything is a great shot throughout the rest of the episode.
Oh yeah. No.
Um, and then she has another breakdown.
Well, she has a breakdown in the fridge, and then she goes and she's writing a goodbye letter, like an I
Right.
love you.
So, um, yeah, so she's writing her I love you letter to Alex. And I was like, what is going on? Now, here's the thing. In one of my deep dives early on in the show, I read a spoiler that said she killed herself in the show instead of Norman killing her. And so that's what I was expecting because I read it on the Reddit one day. Turns out there's more. I'll get into that later. There is more to that context, but not with this show. And so I was like, is this her like writing a suicide note to Alex? Or is this her? I was like, what's happening? I was like, is it happening already? Like, we have one more episode left in the season, which is,
Well,
you know,
it very much could feel with the combination of how things happen in the rest of the episode and the letter, it very much could feel like it's just one more thing that Norman will get away with because it looks like that's what she was trying to do.
right. And I also thought my TV had frozen for a minute because Norman goes and joins her, and they sat so still. It
Okay,
was like,
before this, when she writes the letter and she goes into the room, there is the most stunning shot. I know the fridge shot was great too, but she's sitting at the bed and her lamp is on and you can still see the letter on the like table, and the lamp and the letter are like brightly lit and it's all coming for her, and then Norman is just standing in the doorway almost in pure black. Like I didn't notice him at first because it's so dark.
and it's that same shot whenever he gets in the bed and you see them beside each other. It's complete like stillness. She's still bathed in light and he's bathed completely in dark. And it's chilling. It's
Yeah.
chill. Um, and they're both wearing like even their clothes like mimic it because she's wearing like a white gown and he's wearing a completely dark outfit.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was like really well put together. And Norman starts talking to her and he's like, it's time to move again. Let's start over again. And she's like, I really don't think I can do this again.
Well, and he brings up everything she said in like season one about like Hawaii, and then he starts like planning their whole lives in Hawaii and everything. And I said, no, no, no. You do not need to start over. You both desperately need therapy and healthy relationships.
And he tells her, "We are charming people." I was like, "You are not charming," is not the word I would use. Norma is sometimes charming.
Unfortunately, they are both very charming, and that's how they've gotten themselves into the situation they're in.
I don't think he started off charming, but I think he learned to be. Because, like, at the
Yeah.
very beginning, I wouldn't have said he was charming. He was more like
He was
awkward.
endearing, not charming.
Yes, yes. And, like, we had empathy for him in the beginning and when he was having a rough time. But now he is definitely much more charming.
Yeah.
Um, and then he, like, awkwardly holds her and sings to her. And,
Until she falls asleep.
and he watches her like a psychopath.
And then he gets up. And when he stood up, I just wrote, what the fuck are you about to do, Norman?
And he goes down to the basement and he takes off the caution tape and lights the gas furnace. And Mr. Sandman starts playing.
Literally, my only note just says, holy cinematography.
I lost it when Mr. Sandman started playing because this is one of my, like, we pitch a lot of music. This is one of my favorite uses of music is when you use like a light, happy song in the darkest way possible, but it doesn't destroy the song. Like,
No.
it doesn't like destroy the meaning of the song, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
Um,
no. But just the music starting when you were in the furnace and then the camera physically traveling the same path as the gas, that was one of the most insanely creative shots I have ever seen in television. Like in anything. I
good.
it and like the way you like went through the whole house with him, but you were still always in the duct. Like
You saw
I
it's closing.
you saw the dust everywhere. Like it was like genuinely my favorite thing. It reminded me so much, but like done even better, um, of the blood in the Sweeney Todd credits,
Mm-hmm.
but it was done even better than
Yep.
like it was that. And the Sweeney Todd's credits is the last time I felt that.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
Game of Thrones, the credit like sequence when you're actually like following the map and it's moving has a similar feel, but it's not as stressful.
Very suspenseful.
It's not it oh that was
You're following through and you're like, what's gonna happen? Like, how far is this gonna go? And then he locks the door and
and he shuts every single vent except the oh
and this is the creepiest scene yet. Like, we've had a lot of creepy Norman. This because he's so calm through it all. He's very structured. You can tell he's like knows exactly what he's doing. And I was like, my God, he wants them to die from a gas leak together. And we I thought this was gonna be where the episode ended, and I was like, I'm gonna have to watch like the first 5 minutes of the next episode. This is where it is.
I only knew it wasn't because and I was so mad. So I paused the episode while she was writing the letter and then I closed my Chromebook, like my Chromebook, my computer to do dismissal with the kids. And I came back into my room to get my stuff. And because my tablet sometimes like switches from computer mode to tablet mode without me realizing it, it started playing the episode again. So I I had left off at the point where she was writing the letter, and then I was at the point where her body was being carried. But I didn't know, I didn't see Alex's face. I didn't see Alex's face and I didn't see any of the in between, and I didn't so I didn't know whether she was asleep or like I didn't know what happened. I just saw the body in his arms and was like, I have So then I spent the entire 2 hours of my drama rehearsal being stressed the fuck out because I knew that shit was about to go so bad.
Yeah. Yeah. Because next up we have Alex pulling up to the house, which like
I literally wrote, Alexandra Romero, you perfect angel, get in there and fucking save her.
I know. And so it follows the suspense we had of following the gas through the vents. Now we're following Alex through the house. And he like is saying her name and she is not answering. He doesn't hear any movement. And he gets up and he pulls them both out of the bed when he realizes what's happened. He breaks the glass window so that like air gets in immediately. And he pulls them downstairs and opens all the windows. And I I think it was good on him that he pulled Norman too, because that shows that he's a good person. But I wonder how much of that he thinks is Norman's fault, and I wonder if that letter is going to make him think that it's not. So, um, Norma is super dead, um, but Norman is not because we see him turn his head.
He coughs. He coughs while Alex is trying to revive Norma. And so you know that Norman's going to survive this.
So he turns his head and he has this like blank look in his eyes. And the last line of this episode is just mother.
But here's the thing, he says mother and he's questioning what's happening, and that's the last line of the episode. But the last visual of the episode is not Norman. The last visual of the episode, sorry, I'm like actually gonna cry, is Alex like through like blurry camera, like Norman's blurry vision, Alex absolutely breaking, like shattering. And like I know that like I have always believed that like Alex truly loved Norma, like because I think Alex loved Norma before Norma knew what was happening.
Absolutely.
But like in that moment, holding her body, like having tried so fucking hard to save her, and she's just not.
Yeah. Yep.
I'm not okay. I don't know if I'm ever going to be okay. I know that I am not alone in this because Courtney texted me before we started recording and said that she was quitting the podcast and never talking about this ever again.
I did. I did. Yes.
Yeah. Here's the thing. We watched Psycho. I know the story of Norman Bates. I have been prepared since episode 1 that Norma was going to die. I wouldn't even be upset that Norma died. But then they had to go and make me fall in love with Alex and make Alex fall in love with Norma, and I had to watch him lose her, and that's what I'm broken about. Fuck her. She's a horrible person. She has enabled her. Listen, the problem is it's an awful trauma cycle. I wrote in here that she can't have nice things because of Norman, but it's a heartbreaking trauma cycle because it's just her trauma built Norman and now feeds on not Norman, but his trauma was built by her trauma. Like it's no one's at fault except that she's 100% at fault because the first time he did something, first time he showed any negative, she should have, as his mother, not his friend, not his lover, taken the steps to get him help so that she could still have that close of a relationship with him, but healthily.
Yeah. So did you think this would be the episode she would die in? When did you think when we started getting into the show, we knew it better. When did you think she was gonna die?
I knew it wasn't gonna be the last episode. I knew that the final season was probably going to be the gap between the Norma part of his life to the movie part of his life.
Yeah.
But I assumed that it would either be like the season finale of episode 4 or the first episode of season 5. I thought it was going to be like
One
I
step
thought
further.
I thought it was going to be one step further. I actually thought it was going to be the beginning of season 5.
See, I thought it was going to be the finale of season 4. That's what I was expecting.
I like that it wasn't. I like that like it was just completely not what I
Yeah. Because you didn't expect it. And you picked
I
this up so
and
much in the season of like making us feel for her, making it seem like she had a chance, even though we knew she didn't. And like made us
how
her
much of this
trying to
season
happy.
has been how much of the season has been you and I talking about how the show is happy now and we love whoever said season 4 wasn't good is a fucking idiot.
Yeah, I was reading some reviews on it. Every person is like, season 4 is the best season of this show. They're like, everything has its ups and downs, but season 4 is the best written, directed, produced show of like season of this entire show.
To be fair, that then makes me nervous that season 5 is going to be garbage because
But like, but like, even if season 4 is the best, like 1 through 3 were also still really good.
that's true.
So like,
I
there's
just
a lot of leeway, even if season 5 is not as good.
I To be fair, I'm kind of glad that this is where we ended for our marathon month because I won't watch the season finale for 2 weeks now because I'm not going to watch it too far ahead of recording. So it'll be 2 weeks before I watch it, and I fucking need that time because I'm not emotionally prepared in any way to see what happens next.
Right. So what do you think is going to happen next? Like, what could possibly be the finale of season 4 now?
I'm sure that they're going to think it's a suicide. I'm sure that something is going to happen to him because he's going to feel like he has nothing else to live for. I'm sure that Dylan is going to have severe guilt and it's going to fuck with Dylan and Emma's part of the story. Like, all of these are little pieces that I'm sure are going to happen, but like, that doesn't mean in the next episode, it means in the next 11 episodes. I have no fucking idea what is next. But I do know that something big is going to have to happen in general ever in the show to get us from Norma dead in Alex's arms to Norma dead in the basement because Alex is not going to fucking let Norman touch her.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what has to happen to get us from the sheriff with his dead wife to dressed up in a nightgown in the basement? Because like that's the
got like taken by the DEA and get sentenced to jail, to life, whatever, for the murder of Bob Paris, or Norman's gonna kill him.
he's gonna have to die. Like
Right, those are the only two options because, like, I
well,
mean, murder
and
is life, you know?
I do think death is the only option because Alex isn't gonna let himself get taken away. He's worked way too hard and done way too much to not get taken away at this point, unless he slips because he's so broken.
Right, which is what I'm a little concerned might happen. Because, like you said, he doesn't have anything left to live for anymore. So, yeah.
Yeah.
So on that note, who do you want to punch?
Norman.
Yes. That is the choice.
If there is anyone else, honestly, like I wouldn't even care right now if you didn't have a second choice and just went with Norman because like fuck him.
So Norman obviously is the right choice. It is the only choice, but I also would like to punch Rebecca.
Fair, because she wasn't even good at it. Like she was shady and not even good at being shady.
She's really trying to take Alex down, who's only like helped her out.
Yeah, he literally gave her the key, got her the money, gave her an escape, tried to get her out of there before the DEA nabbed her, And then she was going to repay him by fucking blowing him in just because she was jealous that he fell in love with someone else.
Yep.
Ma'am,
That ain't it.
no.
So who's your MVP?
Well, in a shocking twist that isn't exactly the same as the last 39 episodes of the show, I'm picking Alex Romero.
Right. Yeah, that tracks. That tracks. Would have been my number one, but I also assumed he was your number one. So I went with Dylan because
Flip his eyelashes and he's my number one. So in this episode, like he's genuinely,
definitely number one, yeah.
yeah.
I went with Dylan because he tried really hard to stand up for Norman and he really is trying his best. Bless his heart. And
Yeah.
I know that's like my argument every time for him, but he's so young and has so much on his shoulders.
I mean, but like, would it be a Bates Motel episode of Death and Aliens if I wasn't talking about Alex in a way that was probably undeserved and you weren't talking about Dylan in a way that was probably undeserved?
No, we would. So when we come back in January and we're brand new people, we're gonna just.
We will. Yeah, when we come back in January and we're brand new people, we will not be unnecessarily fawning over Alex and Dylan.
We're gonna come back to the finale of the season being Dylan and Romero becoming the bad guys, and
Yeah.
we're gonna hate them. That's what's gonna happen.
And we're going to be rooting for Norman to lock people in his basement.
Absolutely, and bury them under in his yard
In his hole.
in the pit. Ah, well, if we end up in this other universe, we'll see what happens.
Oh, if I knock my own microphone over one more time, I'm worse than your fucking dog right now.
You are struggling. Well, I do have to top us off before we go away for our Christmas break that you guys are not going to be aware of. I have a few trivia for you.
Okay.
As of September 2020, which was 2 years ago, remember this show ended 2017.
Yeah.
As of September 2020, this was the highest rated episode of the show. Which, like, it's 9.4. Like, that's
Yeah.
pretty high. Like,
Yeah.
pretty high bar across. So,
Yeah.
get it. The murder-suicide attempt that Norman tried to do with Norma was meant to be a reference to how it was said that Norma and her lover at the time died of strychnine. Obviously, this was a
I did actually catch that. I was like, oh shit, that's what they said in the movie. Yeah, got it.
And last but not least, the note was meant to be a reference to the 98 film where Norman forges a suicide note for Norma. So that's what it was meant to be. So, I mean, really, no doubt it's going to be seen as a suicide note in the next episode. Like,
Yeah.
we haven't seen the next episode, but like, I will be shocked if it's not a discussion of it being a suicide note.
Yeah, for sure.
So, wow, we've made it. We made it through a whole year. We made it through almost 4 seasons of Bates Motel. Theoretically, we've made it through December. Hope you see us next week too. If you don't see us next week, we did not make it through December, and we are sorry.
Correct. And we will leave you hanging on this death forever.
Whew, wouldn't that be fun? Speaking of death, you can email us about whatever you want at deathandaliens@gmail.com. You can find us on all the social media that we may or may not interact with, but we will interact with you if you reach out to us. At Death and Aliens, you can find me at CECloud13.
Me everywhere at EMKAY_superstar.
And we will see you for our penultimate episode of Sci-Fi Sunday of Stargate Season 2, Episode 21.
Bye.